There are doctors who swear to save lives and do good, but unfortunately, not all of them follow that path. Some end up crossing ethical lines in shocking and completely unacceptable ways, getting exposed in truly impressive situations. And that's exactly what you're going to see here today. So go ahead and leave your like, click on the subscribe button down below, and let's get started. Recently, 2 episodes involving anesthesiologists in the state of Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, have sparked discussions and investigations about the depravity that took place during medical procedures performed by these professionals. Both cases gained attention because of the severity of the accusations and the possible failures in hospital oversight. The first case happened in São João de Meriti, in the state of Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, where anesthesiologist Giovanni Quintela Bezerra was caught in the act after the medical team became suspicious of his behavior during a C-section. According to reports, the anesthesiologist's conduct raised concerns, prompting colleagues to discreetly position a phone to record what was happening in the room. The footage they captured served as evidence for his arrest. As the story made headlines, other patients started coming forward to the police with similar reports involving the same professional. Giovanni Quintela is currently in custody, and the police continue to investigate the allegations. In the second case, Colombian anesthesiologist Andresa Eduardo Oñate Carrillo is under investigation for depraved conduct. To make matters worse, he was working in the state of Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, without holding the registration needed to practice medicine. Even though he worked under supervision, reports of possible irregularities and abuse began to surface, and the police are working to clarify how he managed to operate without initially raising suspicion. The Regional Medical Council of the state of Rio de Janeiro suspended Carrillo's registration for 6 months as a precautionary measure and began an investigation to determine responsibility, including the role of the institutions that employed him. These 2 cases have fueled debates about safety in hospital settings and the need for stricter oversight to prevent incidents like this from happening again. Even though arrests have been made, we all know that stories like these keep popping up everywhere. Picture this. You go to a dermatologist, worried about a mole or spot on your skin, and you leave with a diagnosis of a severe cancer, needing urgent surgery. But the diagnosis was completely fake, and the surgery was unnecessary. More than 20 patients went through this nightmare after consulting with Dr. Carolina Biscaya. Accused of giving false diagnoses of melanoma, a type of skin cancer, she convinced healthy people to undergo expensive surgeries, costing up to $1,200 when they didn't need them at all. Investigations suggest that she forged exam results, altering them to create the false impression that patients were ill, all for profit.
Eu não queria manchinhas mais escuras no meu rosto e agora eu tenho uma cicatriz enorme.
Eu me apavorei também porque pensei, pô, e agora? O que vai acontecer comigo aqui?
The victims' accounts are even more shocking. Many were in perfect health, but the doctor convinced them they needed urgent surgery. The psychological impact was immense, leaving scars that go far beyond the physical. The trauma of believing they were sick and undergoing invasive surgery is something they might never fully overcome. In addition to falsifying reports, the doctor performed these procedures without having the required specialization, as she did not hold the proper credentials from the Regional Medical Council. Now, she is under investigation for fraud, document forgery, and bodily harm. With each passing day, more victims are coming forward with the same story of fear, manipulation, and irreparable damage. These victims are seeking justice, not just to recover financial losses, but also to address the psychological toll they have faced. The case remains under investigation, and the lesson here is clear. When it comes to your health, always seek a second opinion and make sure the professional has the necessary qualifications to practice safely. We wait to see how the justice system will handle this serious situation. The victims deserve every bit of support as they work to recover, not only physically, but also emotionally, from the trauma they endured. If you're an active TikTok user, there's a good chance you've come across videos by Dr. Roxy, a plastic surgeon who used to stream live surgeries. The idea of showcasing the day-to-day of her profession initially created a big connection with her followers, who saw her as super accessible and transparent. But what seemed like a brilliant strategy to engage the public turned into a nightmare for some of her patients. The biggest problem? Dr. Roxy was accused of making serious mistakes in her surgeries. The final straw came when the Ohio Medical Board decided to permanently revoke her license after evidence showed she had botched 3 surgeries, putting her patients' health at risk. One of the most memorable cases is that of Kelsey Cardenas, who sought out Dr. Roxy for breast surgery after being captivated by her TikTok videos. Kelsey felt a connection with Dr. Roxy's online persona and believed that because she was so open on social media, she could be trusted, but reality proved otherwise. After surgery, Kelsey developed serious complications, including a wound in the surgical area. Upon reviewing footage of the procedure, she noticed the doctor seemed more focused on interacting with the camera than on the procedure itself, something Kelsey believes may have contributed to the mistakes. Kelsey wasn't the only one. Other patients also reported severe complications and ended up seeking out other doctors to fix what had been done. The takeaway is, not everything that glitters on social media is gold, and in Dr. Roxy's case, her obsession with being a TikTok star seriously hurt both her career and the well-being of her patients. What happened at an emergency clinic in Gainesville, Florida, is one of those stories you can hardly believe is real. A patient with a bad case of the flu spent more than 1 hour waiting to be seen, and when she finally got to see the doctor, things spiraled out of control. Exhausted from waiting and feeling terrible from her symptoms, she asked to leave and rest at home. Instead of responding with understanding, the doctor snapped. He hurled profanity, acted rudely, and in a moment of rage, snatched the phone from the patient's daughter, who was recording the interaction, and threw it across the consult room, shattering the screen. The daughter, who was filming, was so shocked that she called the police.
Go.
What's your daughter? What's your name?
You're recording this?
The doctor grabs the phone right out of the daughter's hand.
The incident became a scandal, and Dr. Peter Gallegly later admitted he lost his temper and that his conduct was totally inappropriate for someone in the medical field. Even though he claimed the patient had been aggressive, his response was out of line. The most worrying part is that in a setting meant for care and respect, actions like these show a complete lack of emotional control and professional ethics. Unfortunately, this type of situation isn't an isolated case. When a doctor lets frustration get the better of them, it undermines patient care. In this incident, Dr. Gallegly showed he has a lot to learn about professionalism and self-control. This case sounds like it could be a comedy sketch. A doctor was caught treating an elderly patient while clearly under the influence of alcohol, right in the emergency room. The video shows him visibly intoxicated, displaying strange and agitated behavior and making it obvious that he wasn't in any condition to be working.
Olha o comportamento desse médico. O cara bebeu todas. Na verdade, ele entrou na garrafa para beber. Ficou lá dentro da garrafa.
After the incident, the municipal government of Penha, in the state of Santa Catarina in Brazil, took steps to review the medical records of all patients seen by that doctor. Additional medical teams were called in to reevaluate the cases, concerned that his drunken state might have compromised other patients' care. However, police noted that the doctor's behavior is not considered a crime under the penal code, meaning the investigation will now be handled by other responsible institutions. The worst part is that no one is sure whether this was an isolated incident or if the doctor had been showing up to work drunk on other days as well. The main concern lies with how this could have impacted the people he treated while intoxicated. For those who were seen by this professional, the recommendation is to visit another specialist to ensure their treatment was handled properly. Have you ever imagined someone trusted to care for the elderly using that position to commit horrific crimes? That's exactly what happened with Elizabeth Wetlaufer, a nurse in Woodstock, in Canada. She worked in nursing homes and was well regarded by her bosses and colleagues, but she harbored a dark secret during her night shifts. Between 2007 and 2014, Elizabeth was responsible for killing at least 8 elderly patients. The most disturbing part? No one suspected her because the deaths were attributed to natural causes. After all, these were elderly individuals. Elizabeth had always been described as a shy person who felt somewhat out of place in her childhood. She studied nursing after completing religious studies and began working as a registered nurse in 1995. Even though she had a lucrative career, her issues began surfacing over the years. In 2007, not long after she was hired at one nursing home, the first suspicious death occurred. James Silcox, an 84-year-old patient, and from there, a pattern emerged. Over the subsequent years, more mysterious deaths took place, but nobody suspected a thing. Yet Elizabeth started exhibiting very odd behaviors. She wrote disturbing poems, posted strange messages on social media, and even showed up to work intoxicated. On one occasion, she was found passed out while on the job. Despite all these warning signs, it took years for any serious action to be taken. She was even fired in 2014 for making a medication error that could have been fatal. Still, she kept finding work elsewhere, bringing her problematic history to new facilities. In 2014, Elizabeth tried seeking treatment for her addiction to medication, but had constant relapses. In 2015, she began confessing shocking things to friends and neighbors, such as having been fired for stealing medication and making serious mistakes on the job. What truly rattled everyone was her admission to a close friend that the deaths of those elderly patients were no accident. She knew exactly what she was doing. Upon her arrest, Elizabeth Wettlaufer did not hide what she had done and pled guilty to the charges, leading to a life sentence on June 26 of 2017, with no chance for parole for 25 years. The case sent shockwaves across Canada and revealed severe flaws in the systems responsible for monitoring healthcare professionals. While she received her life sentence in 2017, her story continues to be studied for both the gravity of her actions and the missed warning signs that could have been caught earlier. Many other people around the world have also come forward to say that family members who passed away in hospital beds, especially during the night shift, might also have been affected by nurses. Elizabeth's case is a reminder that this is not such a rare occurrence. A doctor is someone who studies for years to help people, right? But sometimes it seems some forget their calling and show another side. That's what happened at a hospital in Pembroke Pines when a fight between a doctor and a patient's caregiver was caught on camera. It all started when Matthew Copeland, who was caring for a friend with terminal cancer, questioned a medication prescribed by Dr. William Sanchez. Copeland was worried about the treatment and wanted to speak to a supervisor about it. The conversation was already tense, and it escalated when the doctor turned away and used foul language. Copeland followed the doctor through the hospital corridors, insisting on talking more. That's when things got out of control. Sanchez turned around and aggressively pushed the caregiver, sparking a shouting match that involved punches and even an attempted chokehold. What's most shocking is that after the incident, the district attorney's office did not charge the doctor with assault, saying he was only defending himself. However, Copeland has announced he plans to sue Sanchez in civil court. Meanwhile, the doctor continues to practice as usual. This has left many questioning whether a healthcare professional who gets involved in a fight like this should be allowed to continue treating patients. In 2018, something shocking happened at a long-term care facility in Arizona, in the United States. A young woman whose serious medical condition since childhood left her unable to communicate or move like others unexpectedly gave birth to a baby with nobody aware she was pregnant. She had been in the facility since she was 3 years old, and her condition made it impossible for her to let anyone know what was happening. The birth caught everyone off guard, including the staff caring for her. When the nurses and doctors arrived in her room and realized what was happening, they were dumbfounded. Nobody had suspected she was pregnant. It was a total shock for everyone, especially since signs like the patient's growing belly went unnoticed for months.
I was looking around, I couldn't see my car. I was down on Winston.
Investigations soon revealed that the patient had been the victim of a terrible situation within the facility itself. The culprit turned out to be one of the nurses on staff. The case caused widespread outrage and raised questions about the safety and well-being of people in such vulnerable conditions. This incident exposed significant failings in the long-term care system, where neglect and inadequate monitoring can have tragic consequences. In response, the state of Arizona had to review its healthcare policies and implement new measures to ensure such an incident would never happen again. The victim's family filed a lawsuit of $45 million against the state of Arizona, citing negligence in the care facility. They pointed out critical oversights in monitoring the patient, whose pregnancy went undetected despite obvious signs. The lawsuit ended in a settlement of $15 million with the facility and $7.5 million with the state. If there's ever a bad time to dance, it's definitely during surgery. During a procedure, Latoya Arshin was filmed while Dr. Wendell Boot danced and made an incision to the beat of the song Cut It. The video, showing the doctor having fun while operating, was just the beginning of a series of bizarre happenings. In another clip, one of the doctor's assistants is seen dancing with pieces of human tissue while the music plays on. Arshin only found out about the videos after the story was reported, leaving her in total shock. On top of that, the surgery consent form bore the signature of only one member of Boot's team, leaving the space meant for Arshin's signature blank, and the results were far from satisfactory. The right side of Arshin's body ended up significantly larger than the left, marked by noticeable scarring and deformities she can't hide. After the videos went public, Dr. Boot tried to pressure Arshin into recording a video praising his work, but she felt cornered and too disfigured to comply. Now, Arshin is considering taking legal action, not only for the video exposure but also for the disastrous outcomes of the surgery. In his defense, the doctor claims the media has blown the damage done to Arshin and other patients out of proportion. Nonetheless, more than 100 patients have already come forward complaining about Boot's behavior and questionable practices. A startling case from China spread rapidly on social media. A surgeon was suspended after being accused of hitting a patient in the middle of surgery. The footage, which has amassed millions of views, shows the doctor striking the patient 3 times while operating on her eyes. The patient, who is 82 years old, was under local anesthesia at the time. According to the hospital, the reason behind the assault was that the patient couldn't remain still because of the anesthesia, moving her head and eyes during the operation. The patient, unable to respond to the doctor's instructions due to her sedation, ended up being treated in a violent manner. As a result, she suffered bruises on her forehead, and her son reported that she lost sight in one eye, though it's unclear if the blindness occurred before or after the surgery. The hospital, which specializes in ophthalmology, apologized to the family and offered compensation. The surgeon involved was fired for violating hospital rules. Remarkably, this incident took place in 2019, but it only gained major attention in 2023, when a popular doctor named Dr. Ian, who has over 2 million followers, shared the video on social media. She had previously been in legal disputes with the same hospital, adding even more fuel to the controversy. This episode not only brought attention to the aggression, but also raised questions about ethics in hospital settings and patient safety. Moving away from hospitals and into dental clinics, the treatments performed by dentist Dr. Schneider in Jacksonville have left parents outraged. Several families claim that he not only removed children's teeth without justification, but also employed aggressive methods during procedures. One mother was horrified to learn, after her child's appointment, that her daughter had no fewer than 8 teeth pulled when they had only planned to extract one. But the complaints don't stop there. In a secretly recorded video, you can see a 3-year-old boy being strapped into a papoose board, similar to a straitjacket, during a painful procedure, and all of it reportedly took place without any anesthesia. The situation caused so much outrage that over 50 families joined forces to speak out against the dentist. His office has been shut down and he has surrendered his license. Still, the community demands answers. Dr. Schneider denies any wrongdoing, but he is under investigation by the police. The parents involved are fighting to ensure he is held accountable for the harm he inflicted on so many children. And don't forget to subscribe so you can catch more videos like this.